more? Sorry, tell us more on that particular feat. And I understand you also have a partnership with some other doctors in Texas.
Yes. This story, I've told this story a number of times. When I started here as the CMD, I used to come here as the head of the Department of Surgery. But when I started as CMD, I noticed the number of cases of acute renal failure. Usually young people. Almost every day you come to the emergency room, you see 2 or 3 new patients, either after dialysis or waiting for dialysis. And as the nephrologist will tell you, the cost of it, both in the public sector in Nigeria, in the private sector, is such that people cannot sustain it for more than a month or 2 or 3 months. So, so there's a natural tendency for the person to give up, and you know what happens. So I sent an email to the governor and I said, this is a lot. And he responded and said that we should write a proposal that he will provide a subsidy. So, and the subsidy reduced the cost from the cost of one treatment to making that cost spread over 3 treatments, which you should have in a week.
And that's only available for citizens or residents of Delta State?
Yes. I think probably safer to say residents of Delta State, because we don't take the trouble to make you prove that you're an indigent. We don't take that trouble, at least not at the moment. And of course, kidney renal replacement treatment, of which dialysis is one. The ultimate, of course, is to replace the kidney. And I felt that there was no point in starting something that doesn't have a natural end. So as I said, I'm ambitious. So I then made a promise that we'll do a kidney transplant at the end of 12 months. To do this, you have to get into bed with people who have been doing it. And if you want to define the level at which you want to do it, you take people who have been doing it successfully at the highest possible level. Now, let me tell you that kidney transplantation has been done in Nigeria, both in the private sector and in the public sector. There's nothing new about it. As a matter of fact, the highest numbers, more than 100, have been done in a private hospital in Lagos. But as usual, as you said, the issue is sustainability and also the quality. So I have a relationship with some people in Texas, the University of Texas Southwestern, where there's a global health office, and in a number of universities in the States now, they have global health offices where they want to help developing countries, typically with expertise, while they send their medical students and residents here. So what you get is expertise from them, and what they get from you is the opportunity to send their staff and faculty and medical students to see other pathologists. So I approached them and I said, we want to do this within a year. What do we need to do to be able to do it? And then from the ministry and the hospital, we went on a trip to Dallas. And we went around, and eventually we concluded that us and them, that it was possible for us to do it within a year. So we came back, and the governor, Dr. Ibarra, kindly provided the funds to upgrade the facilities and the infrastructure of the hospital, such as where you stayed last night, to the level where you could actually do this. That is, you could receive visitors from overseas in the same premises. You could do dialysis. You could make the water safe. You could make power reliable. You could make power safe for equipment.
You want to tell us how you've been able to achieve that? Because the light hasn't blinked.
Yes.
So what's the magic?
We get power from PHCN and 3 generators. So I just repair them.
Is this all over the hospital, or you segment them? The clinical areas?
No, the clinical areas are powered by dedicated generators and a UPS system. to ensure that, as you saw all that equipment, you cannot have power fail. You also cannot have power that is not current, that is not pure. Because we had a lot of problem with that at the beginning. So we have 2 500 kVA UPSs, so that will keep power going for 4 to 6 hours, even if you have an issue with one generator. Now, even while the generator is on, it also keeps the power that goes to these areas pure. So it protects equipment. A lot of equipment that gets spoiled in Nigeria is, as you know, voltage surges and impact power.
One of the things my colleague asked is about sustainability. I mean, you've tried to address affordability in terms of how, government still has a welfare system. But in terms of funding of this hospital, would you say that you get a substantial part of the money for it from the people who come, or do you still get majority of the money from the government?
We get some money from the government, overheads for maintenance. It doesn't do anything for maintenance. So most of the money for maintenance and even purchase of new equipment is from income that you get from the hospital. I've developed what you call a silo system, where each specialty has its own account to generate income. The income from the account is known to the specialty, and that drives the maintenance of those services.
As in a ratio, if you were to say what you get from government and what you generate, what would it be?
We generate probably about half of what government provides us as overheads.
Okay, we've seen this equipment and all of what you put in here, but let's look at the operations. If you were to have an emergency situation, how do the ambulance service function? Because as much as there are fantastic equipment here, what about the ambulances? If you were to move people in here, how does that operate? Do you have the same equipment, or some of them in the same ambulances?
Well, ambulances typically will be equipped with what you call life-saving equipment, oxygen, suction, monitors, things like that. That's what that's what they call the mobile intensive care buses, if you may say that. Currently, the state government is trying to establish a mobile ambulance service, right, which will be linked to us, much in the same way as you have the neonatal network that we're talking about. So if something goes wrong on the way to Benin, we get to be told, and as you said, you are told what the issues are, and then when you send the ambulance to go and pick up the patient, it is the problem that you have with the patient that determines what the ambulance goes with. So you either go and rescue the patient, okay, or you go and treat the patient considerably on the spot, depending on what the issues are. Now, the answer to the question is that we're in the process of developing that statewide and also in the hospital. As long as you get to the hospital, of course, you can be taken care of. But statewide, that is, as the commissioner will have told you, that is the process of being developed.
One thing that people see in some teaching hospitals is the attitude of the members of staff there. We wish we had seen the case where maybe an ambulance comes in and we see what happens, but since we haven't, what can you tell us about all of this? Are you doing anything about getting the right attitude to some of these matters?
Yes, one way in which we have addressed that is to have a mix of staff. If you have staff from parts of the world where their attitude to healthcare is a bit different from Nigeria, right? And they drive everybody else. Okay, the model for capacity building, as I explained yesterday, was to bring Nigerians from the diaspora, okay, the UK, the United States, typically, to come and work alongside Nigerians here. This has been most successful in the nursing service. And we got a new crop of young nurses whose attitude is totally different from what you might see anywhere else. And we just recruited another crop of young nurses, most of them actually from private clinics. So the attitudinal issue, which is an important one, is demonstrated by the people who you have brought to train them. So that is like a typical model. You will find that the older Nigerians, maybe who have been trained at home, maybe some younger than me, some of them my age, have a totally different attitude than young people. To one extent, you are exceptional for your generation in terms of attitude. So it applies across the board, both in other walks of life, just like in medicine.
All the best, Dr. Leslie Akorari, Chief Medical Director in Delta State University Teaching Hospital. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, we'll have another perspective on this program, so please join us again.